Howdy YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to install the water pump and the crank pulley. I'm going to finish adjusting the valves. I'm going to drive the pilot bearing into the flywheel and install the flywheel and the clutch and hopefully get this thing in the truck today. So we got our nice little layer of RTV on both sides. Gonna go ahead and lay that gasket on there and sandwich these guys together. Ahead and put in 3 bolts through just to kind of hold the gasket in place, and then I'll apply more once I get it mated up with this surface here. I got these lined up here and the gasket's in place where it needs to go. I made sure, of course, it's facing the right way. So that's just gonna go on there real nice, look real nice. Bolts in, they're all tightened up really good. Got a nice little bit of silicone protruding through, just a tiny little bit. So that's gonna set up perfectly. So now we have the crank pulley on there, got a little scratched up. That's nothing a quick shot of paint will do. Got this thing pretty much sitting where it's gonna. And of course we put blue Loctite on the main bolt because we don't want this sucker coming out. And I don't remember the torque spec on this, but I'm just gonna tighten it up probably with an impact driver, just a real quick buzz. Crank pulley on and torque down. Make sure when you guys put these seals in, you drive them in pretty far, because when I first put this on and started to tighten down, it was actually touching it, so I had to drive it down a little bit farther. So I have about 1/8 of an inch gap between the crank pulley and the seal. So it's about as much as you want. It's pretty solid. And that didn't fall down. That's where we're at right now. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the back of the engine. Insert the pilot bearing there, and then you want to clean this up. Spray it off with carb cleaner or engine, or not engine degreaser, but brake clean, because there's an oil on this to keep it from flash rusting. Drilled in there. All I used was a 14mm, and I drove it in with my rubber mallet here because I don't have a press, so it's nice and straight. Don't need to worry about it. It's in there. I already wiped down the flywheel here, so it's all nice and dry. And I've got my bolts cleaned up. We're gonna use red Loctite on those because I'll just hit them with an impact the next time I ever have to take them off. So just a drop of that stuff, put them in. 52 foot-pounds is spec, which is where we're gonna set them at. So should be decent. And if you guys are wondering, these are symmetrical bolt pattern. There's no wrong way to install these flywheels. Now I have one bolt in place, and it's not tight. We're gonna go ahead and Loctite the rest of these and get them threaded in there, and we'll have to torque down. Generally what I do is stand on the side of the engine, have a breaker bar on the front, torque wrench on the back. These are for the pressure plate to flywheel. These are to be torqued to a maximum of 24 foot-pounds. So we're going to adjust our torque wrench and get the clutch on the flywheel. Flywheel degreased, the pressure plate there. That's our clutch disc. Like I said, it's a copper ceramic. It's pretty cool. I can't remember how much I spent on this or who even makes this. You want the springs and such facing out. And next we're gonna sandwich this guy on there. The clutch is installed and torqued. We got a nice brand new flywheel, so it's a really nice flat machine surface. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, everything looks good. So next step is we're gonna get it in the back of the truck, and we're gonna get it to my house, and I'm gonna install it in the Ranger. Truck here, we got our chain hoist set up where we want it. We're gonna pull the truck to it. We're gonna drop it in. This month it'll have been a year since I pulled this thing out, so pretty exciting. A little nervous, but it's gonna go good. redneck winch here and pulled the truck up to where it needs to go. I'm gonna lower the engine down now, and as it gets lower and closer to the transmission, I'll pull the truck even farther forward so it can just pop right in there. Okay guys, got the engine in and bolted up to the transmission and bolted to the motor mounts. It's the nicest thing on this whole truck, but that's all right. Okay, now we got both the valve covers on. Look pretty nice with these zinc coated screws. They're definitely a lot easier to tighten up than a bolt is when you have a full ratchet. So you can just have one piece of a tool and works great. So they have a little bit of dust on them, but okay, I have an FL1A Motorcraft oil filter. If you have like a 90s or maybe even older, some current trucks run this. Every vehicle I have here runs this same filter. If I'm not running an AMS oil filter, this is the filter I run. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. Before you guys put these oil filters on, if possible, fill them full of oil. A lot of people don't know that, and it's kind of an old racer's trick. It'll save probably 2 or 3 seconds at least to make your engine pressurize oil about 2 or 3 seconds faster than it would if you did not fill the filter. And luckily this filter mounts vertically, so we're going to go ahead and fill her all the way up, and I'm going to insert a screwdriver or a pick onto the diaphragm so I can get it all the way to the top. It'll let all the air bubbles out, and you want to be really careful when you do that you don't hurt the diaphragm, because that's your anti-drain back diaphragm. I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. Be back out in the morning. This is where the engine's at right now. It looks pretty nice, sitting in there. I went ahead and replaced every one of these bolts with these Phillips head screws, I guess you could say. And it looks really, really nice. So I'm gonna head in now. It's about 35 degrees and cooling down. I'll come back out tomorrow morning and hopefully be able to put everything else in. Got the oil filter on right there, and then I got to work on the exhaust. I have full length headers for this thing, so I'll be installing those tomorrow as well, and hopefully we'll be able to crank it tomorrow. So I don't have much time left in the weekend to get it done, but I need to get it done because I need to start driving it and break it in and get it ready for winter pretty much. So next video you see will be during the day. Okay guys, we're back out here. It's about 12 and it's still pretty cold out, but we're gonna start attacking this thing. I covered last night because the manifolds are open. So right now we're just working on the exhaust. Basically what I have to do is I have to get those pipes that are all cut up down there, and I have to get those off of the catalytic converter that's down there so I can put the full length headers on, which are right here. I think these are pace setter. I'm sure they are. They have a tag on them here. Pace setter, yep. They're full length, and then they have a collector on them as well. Okay, I guess got the exhaust pieces. I got the collector out, and I got the catalytic converters out. So I should be able to mount those headers now, and then I'll pull that oxygen sensor out, and it'll go right there. Alrighty, so now we got the exhaust all bolted up. Get the headers completely bolted up, and then we got the cats and everything bolted up too, and the oxygen sensor in way down there. So it's pretty tight. You need to have real small hands sometimes to work on stuff, and I don't have very small hands, but that's all right. And now we're gonna move on. We're gonna install the dipstick. We're gonna fill her full of oil, and then might just put some power to it and just crank it over just to prime it. Here we got the one of the main brackets on. We've got the oil pressure sending unit in, and I'm painting the bracket right now for the alternator. I just spent like the last half hour looking for the thing and I couldn't find it. And there's no ways, no forums online that show you how it's supposed to go. So if you have your truck apart for a year, like I did, and you come back and you're like, how does this thing freaking hook on there? You're gonna have your eyes crossed in no time trying to figure out how the heck that is supposed to go. Because there's no way that's gonna go on there without the bracket, of course. So keep track of your parts and you should be pretty decent. Alrighty, it's changed quite a bit since the last video I've done. We've got pretty much everything hooked up. I did break my positive crankcase breather, unfortunately, so tonight I'm just gonna tape it up real good and then put it back together, put it back in there. Okay, so it's early morning the next day. Got a little bit of a hang up. Unfortunately, the O-ring that's on the radiator drain plug is shot, so as soon as I started to pour coolant in, I got about a quart of coolant in it, and it started leaking, so I wasn't really able to crank it or anything like that. And so I'm kind of held back right there, but I'm gonna go to work and see if I can't find a little O-ring that fits in. It's about a 1/4 inch diameter, it's super tiny, and see if we can't get that thing to hold coolant when I come back from work today, and we'll go from there. Okay, it's the following evening. I'm gonna check the oil one last time, and then we're gonna go ahead and do a first initial fire of this thing, and then I'm gonna break in the cam off camera because that's just 20 minutes of it just running at 2200 to 2500 RPM. And in my opinion, that's boring. And then we'll go from there. Okay, it's first start in 1 year. Figure out how the heater works. Morning after doing the first start, I did that start, and then in between both videos I did the cam break in for 20 minutes, but we're actually cruising to work right now. It's got a little bit of a miss, but I need to recheck my timing for the ignition just to confirm that that's correct. And then I think it threw a lean code and then it cleared up, but I think it might have been just because of the old gas, and there might have been some crud in the fuel injector, the fuel rail on it, so I might need to pull those back out and just clean them up real quick just in case. Luckily it's really easy to take that top manifold off and take that stuff off, so it's just 6 bolts and then 4 more little bolts, 5/16 or 8mm bolts that hold on the fuel rail. But it's running pretty good. It runs really smooth, it sounds pretty good, and oil pressure is great. We're just cruising down the road around 50 miles an hour right now, down an old highway, going the back way to work. So every once in a while I slow down and shift back through the gears, because you're not supposed to, when you're braking in an engine, you're not supposed to, just sit lumbering along in one engine speed. So every once in a while I change a bunch of gears, but it sounds pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. It kind of ticked me off last night when it misfired a little bit, but other than that, it should work its way out. So that's it for the rebuild. I'm going to post some follow-up videos of it running and driving around and revving it up pretty good. But as far as the assembly videos, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching and have a good one.